Dave Ramsey started by sharing that the most effective system that the world has ever known for the little man to get ahead is the current state of America today. The little man has a better chance. It's all about taking responsibility, making decisions, and understanding the meaning of sowing and reaping. If you plant corn seed in the ground, you should not be shocked that corn grows. There is an accounting finance definition for millionaires. It is relatively simple: assets minus liabilities. What you own minus what you owe. When that equals greater than $1 million, you call yourself a millionaire. It's a math equation. What you own minus what you owe. That's exactly what occurs. There are around 13 million millionaires in America today, completed a couple of years ago in their research department. An airtight piece of research, the most extensive study of millionaires ever done. Over 10,164 of them were surveyed. They conducted in-depth discussions with them to determine who they were, where their money came from, and what their careers were. Here's what's interesting. They have proven statistically again, with the most extensive study ever done of millionaires, that 89% of the billionaires in North America today did not become millionaires because of inheritance. The results show that 79% received zero inheritance, 5% received a little inheritance of $5,000 from the grandmother, not even enough to make them a millionaire, and another 5% received substantial money after they were already millionaires. The definition of the middle class has completely changed. In 1960, middle class was an 1,100 square foot brick home with 1 or 2 cars in the driveway. Today, middle class is 2,800 square foot, a 2-story with 2 or 3 cars in the driveway. We defined the middle class by what in 1960 the upper middle class may be, lower upper class. We've changed our standards of living so high across the board in America that we have the richest poor people in the world. The pandemic has shut down the economy completely. It shut down all factories, it even shut down our supply chain. We shut down all production and most of the consumption, but not all of it. Then, we put people back to work sort of, but we paid them not to work. We disrupted the supply chain. We disrupted the supply and demand of goods and services. We disrupted the labor markets with this policy coming out of Washington, continuing people to pay not to work. So we've had this perfect storm that has resulted in unbelievable spikes in almost every category. The only type that's not caused by this is oil. That's caused by shutting off pipelines and policy again out of shutting down supply. It is a supply and demand curve. Anytime there is a shortage, you see a jump in price. It is like a shortage of toilet paper jump in price. Lack of gasoline jumps in price, and depletion of labor a jump in price. That's a supply-demand curve. The lower socioeconomic rungs were the first ones that were hurt the most by the pandemic during quarantine and the shutdowns. They are the ones that haven't come back, and they are the ones that are holding up the economy from moving again, and it's all caused by these extended out-of-control government programs. But that's not helpful to that person 10 years from today to teach them not to work. He is continuing to do what he has done for 30 years. He brought up mutual funds and a long track record of mutual funds in his 401k and even outside the 401k. And he buys real estate that he pays cash. It's straightforward and all, just like there is nothing to expect. It's the baby steps that they have thought for almost 30 years, but what they found out was that now that they have been doing this so long, there are tens of thousands of millionaires that are millionaires because they worked this plan that we taught them 10 years, 12 years, or even 18 years ago. Follow the small steps 1 through 3. Getting out of debt and building your emergency fund. And 4 is to put 15% of your income into your retirement. Now the average household income is $60,000. If you put 15% of $60,000 away from the age of 30 to 65, you will have between $5 and $10 million in your mutual funds, and it is all about ratios. Imagine this: he would take a swing with an amount, and he will always visualize it if he put that amount of money in the middle of his kitchen table and then set fire to it. Meaning the risk goes poorly. They lost the whole thing. Does it affect your life? Is this a significant setback? If the answer is no, you can swing with that amount of money. If you want to invest in Beanie Babies, Bitcoin, gold, or start a business, and you don't know what the flip you're doing, as long as you're not betting the whole farm on it and sliding all the chips forward like James Bond at the poker table going all in, that's the people that lose everything. And then they get this opportunity to start again. So don't do that. But if you take a risk, for example, you can make a lot of money in a single stock. I always tell people itching to do that to put no more than 10% of their net worth into that when their whole thing is based on a ridiculously high risk premise. Here's what's interesting. Grateful people are generally generous. Generous people are usually appreciative. Those are two personal character qualities that make you highly attractive. Everybody wants to be around you, not because they're trying to get money off of you, but because generous people are just really helpful. They're warm in conversation. They're the ones that hold the door for you. They're not above picking up the plate after dinner and taking it to the dishwasher when you're at someone's home. Generous people are givers. They are not takers. We all know both kinds of people. And here's what's interesting. That's a decision you can just decide today. Say it to yourself now, I'm a generous person. It is not a gene, you're not born with it. It's not a DNA. It's not an amount of money. I just want to be a person who adds value to situations, not one who takes a deal. I'm not a parasite. I add value. Generosity is a simple act. In a society that revolves around trade and business, generosity can become calculative and overcomplicated. But the Bible teaches us that generosity is simple. Just as we teach young children to practice sharing, teachings in the Bible also demonstrate that sharing what we have is the simplest expression of generosity. Generosity, oddly enough, changes the person's appearance. It changes the way they carry themselves. It changes the octave you use when you're speaking. It changes so many things that need to be more discernible. They tend to move into tremendous opportunities in their lives. They tend to prosper more than speakers do. The odd thing is that the taker, those who are too greedy, is trying to thrive by climbing over people's bodies. And that's the very thing that holds them. Worse than that, they'll tell everybody they know to stay away from you. It's not just you lose that one customer, you can lose their entire tribe as well. You lose everyone they have influence as well. His friend, Rabbi Daniel Lapin says, if you go to the auto repair shop and the guy fixes your car and he walks out, and you go how much and he goes, it was a 25-cent part, don't worry about it, just remember me. You will remember that guy. But if you go to the guy and he messes you over, he's not in business in 2 years. Because an auto repair guy who does a great job is a unicorn. Everybody's going to send somebody there. It's like saying, I'm going to tell all my friends that I found a good one. The opposite is true. If he messes me over, and so this idea that somehow capitalism without a moral opposition to it works is ridiculous. It doesn't work. That's not how capitalism works. Capitalism is an act of service. And when you serve someone, just like his other friend Ken Blanchard says, profit is the applause your customers give you. They will say thank you. This wonderful digital world that we live in was not available 5 years ago. The money they can make with a podcast, the money they can make with a digital application of the content of any kind right now. There are all kinds of ways to deliver products out of your garage. That just simply wasn't possible in an analog world. The opportunities are infinite out there. Here is the reality. There are all kinds of people out there that do people wrong that are immoral. That doesn't function properly in our culture today. It brings toxicity to these discussions, and it is systematic. It is the system you live in, so you have to decide. Are you going to ride the wave of negative into victimhood and entitlement, or are you going to rise above whatever the thing is that's coming at you? Stop defining wins as big or small. Celebrate everything positive. The more you take note of your successes and think positively about them, the more confidence you can breathe. With more confidence comes less space for victimhood because you realize that you are the only person in charge of your life. If you are confident about yourself, that's more important. And if you have the self-belief upon yourself, no external force can stop you from achieving what you truly deserve. There have been several successful people in the world who don't have a glamorous background. Some people belong to the underprivileged section of society, but what makes them different from the rest of the world is that instead of focusing on their origin, they kept their sight intact on their goal and the direction they were heading through. It doesn't matter where you come from. All that matters is where you're going.